exciting episode ng ating
Usapang training at iba pa.
Okay, muntik na naman. No? One day. One day magkakasabay-sabay din po tayo. Okay, welcome mga katropa. And of course, this is Marby. I'm one of your hosts for today. And of course, I have here our president, Sir Edwin Obreo. Sir Ed, good evening.
Hello, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat, and thank you for joining us tonight for another engaging conversation on our topic. Ayan. At kasama din natin, although they'll be working in the backgrounds tonight, I see Pearl Martinez. Say hello, Pearl.
Yan. Sorry, hindi ready. Nagpasa background lang kami. Magandang gabi sa lahat ng ating mga katropang trainers.
Okay, and then of course, Louie.
Hello po. Isa na namang episode dito sa Usapang Training.
Okay, ayan. Mamaya na natin pakilala yung isang ikaw pakilala sa ating guest mamaya.
Baka hindi pa nila kilala yung ating speaker. Ipapakilala natin ulit mamaya. But of course, another exciting session. Napaka-importante nitong topic na to, lalo na sa ating mga trainers. No? Pero before we go there, bago po ang ating exciting na usapan, pakinggan muna natin ano nga ba ang mga bago or ang mga news about PSTD, what's been happening sa ating community. Siguro pakinggan natin from Press Edwin Abreu, ano ba ang ganap ng PSTD, Sir Ed?
Okay, thank you, Marby. Once again, magandang gabi po sa ating mga nanonood at nakikinig. At ako ang naatasan na mag-report ng balitang PSTD ngayong gabi. And we are excited to share that we're having our February Tipanan. Ito po, paki-save po ang date. February 22, tama ba? February 22, ayan. At ito po ay gaganapin sa Civil Service Commission. No? At we expect in this Tipanan, aside from our key topic, is that we're going to have an opportunity to network and exchange ideas and practices with talent development practitioners, not only in the private sector, but also in the public sector. So exciting po ang magiging tipanan natin sa February 22. At dito rin po sa tipanan na ito ay guest natin si Dr. Jocelyn Pic, Chief Executive Officer ng Profiles Group and one of the biggest supporters of PSTD. And ang chairperson po ng Civil Service Commission, si Attorney Carlo Nograles. And our topic for the Tipanan is the first component of the talent development framework, talent discovery, integrating talent acquisition and learning and development. Excuse me. Ang madalas pagka naisip natin yung talent development, kasi nandiyan dyan na yung tao at nag-identify tayo ng training need kagaya nung discussion natin ngayong gabi. But talent development actually starts at the moment that you look for people to join your organization. So in this Tipanan, i-connect natin yun. Dapat ma-connect natin yung talent acquisition sa learning and development. Paano gagawin yan? Ay sama kayo sa darating na Tipanan. So yan, ang oras natin, kasi alam nyo na, nasa Quezon City ang opisina na Civil Service Commission. At I hope that it's going to be worth your while to go there. We'll start at 9 a.m. at matatapos po tayo ng 3:00 ng hapon. Ayan. So malamang may patanghalian si Norman sa Tipanan na yan. So join us on February 22. Ito, last day na nito bukas, yung training needs analysis. So nire-report ko na lang po na patapos na yung ating training needs analysis certification. At para doon sa mga gustong humabol ay abangan nyo na lang po yung susunod na schedule natin probably next quarter, no? Kasi per quarter yan. At ngayong March 5 to 7 ay training facilitation certification program naman to be facilitated by the chair, no, for the certification committee, si April Salonga. And hindi po kayo magsisisi dito sa program na ito, lalo na if you are a subject matter expert, no, and you want to learn how to effectively present and facilitate the program, you should attend this. Benchmark your practice with the practice in PSCD, no? So yan. And then we have syempre yung host natin for tonight is also running our designing e-learning course, and no one better to run this program than our resident expert, no, in anything digital, especially in learning and development, Ms. Marby Tabungan. And siyempre, patuloy po natin sinusuportahan ang ating chapter sa Davao. At kung kayo po ay available sa February 20 at kayo ay taga Davao area, please join the Panagtigum. Ito po yung tipanan ginaganap natin sa sa Davao, and we're also trying to strengthen the number, the strength of our chapter in Davao. You will see more interactions and engagement from them and the other chapters that we're trying to establish. And things to look out for this year, I just want to share. Uy, dapat may animation to hindi tumuloy. Anyway, abangan nyo po, sa March 4 ay magkakaroon po tayo ng free learning session on how you can take your certification journey, no? So if you're looking to get certified, yung ating certified training designer, certified facilitator, certified analyst at saka certified manager, ay mag-join po kayo sa March 4. Libre po yan. At malapit na po nating ilabas yung yung ating announcement diyan. Abangan nyo lang po. Tapos as you can see, no, from my recent announcement, yung pong mga tipanan natin, some of them will still be online, pero meron po tayong mga special tipanans na gaganapin sa iba't ibang venue, at marami pong engaging networking and learning opportunities awaiting us. So if you're not yet a member of PSTD, join us and join the tipanans. Gusto ko rin pong i-announce na yung ating certification course, kung meron kayong 10, 15 or 20 participants in-house, lalo na yung certified facilitator or certified designer, yung mga subject matter experts ninyo sa kumpanya ay gusto nyong i-train at ipa-certify, pwede po natin gawin yan in-house, and it's more cost-effective to do that, no? At nako-customize pa natin dun sa need ng mga participants. Alam nyo naman, pag public, medyo generic yung approach natin, ano? Pero pagka ginawa nating in-house yan, ayun, mas mako-customize natin. So, kung meron kayong mga technical expert dyan na gusto nyong i-train at i-certify sa ating certification program, please let us know, no? Reach out to us. And then lastly, abangan nyo po, at sa mga susunod nating usapan ay i-announce natin yung schedule ng ating National Convention, yung Talent Development Summit, the Mentoring Summit, yung ating research conference, and more events coming from our very active committees. So kung kayo po ay member at wala kayong committee, ay join na po sa ating committees. So yan po ang ating balitang PSTD. Back to you, Marby.
Thank you, Sir Ed. Grabe, sobrang exciting ang mga magaganap sa PSTD. And ito rin talaga yung reason, no, kung bakit it's really worth the investment, your time, no, being a part of PSTD, because you can be a part of these exciting events. In fact, dahil nabanggit na ni Sir Ed ang pag-invite sa mga committee, mag-shameless plug na rin ako ng Digital Learning Committee. Sa mga members ng PSTD dyan na gustong mag-join and want to hone your skills also and get to know people working in the Digital Learning Committee, feel free to join us. Basahin ko lang yung mga comments natin sa chat, Sir Ed. Meron dito si Miggy, may parinig. Ayan, sabi ni Miggy, yes to free learning sessions about PSTD certs. Sana free din yung certification.
Wish nating lahat yan.
Wish nating lahat yan. Daming ganap. Yan. Okay. Wish nating lahat yan. But anyway, actually this usapang training, Sir Ed, diba? Ito ay season 2 na. Tama?
Yes, it is.
Grabe, no? And in fact, this is the 3rd episode kasi talagang inayos, ginawa na according to the ADI model para ma-structure din. Diba, Sir?
Oo. At saka isa pa, Marby, kung makumpleto ninyo yung series natin sa TNA, sa topic na TNA, you can get the certificate for attending it. So it's an equivalent of a training event, no? So yeah.
Additional value sa ating
Yes.
Followers or participants. Yan. Okay, so in this session, ito po ay still under training needs analysis. Actually, gustong-gusto ko tong topic na to kasi I feel like when you're a trainer, ito yung medyo na underrated na skill. Kasi usually pag trainer ka, unang sabak mo facilitation. Tama, Sir Ed?
Oo. Pero napakahalaga nito.
Correct. Parang kadalasan pag trainer, mag-facilitate or mag-speak ka. Hindi ka naman trainer, mag-analyze ka. Right? So it's a very underrated skill. And ang ganda ng transition from the session ni Brian talagang in-establish yung need for data-driven decision making. Tapos sa session ni Jamai last week, talagang highlight niya sa dami ng data collection methods, ano yung top 3 na pwede mong gamitin, like online questionnaire survey, FGDs, and yung mga internal data analysis. So ngayon, yung ating speaker, baka hindi niyo pa po siya kilala, ano? Yung ating speaker today, mag-zoom in. Pa natin magagawang effective yung pagkakandak ng focus group discussions o yung tinatawag na FGD na gagamitin mo for training needs analysis specifically. Yeah. Okay, so without further ado, Sir Ed, welcome na natin ang ating speaker today. Ang ating isa sa mga artistahin ng PSTD at isa sa endorser. Patingin naman ng basa mo dyan, Sir June. Ayan, i-promote mo na. Okay, so let us welcome. He's the vice chairperson for PSTD and also the HROD consulting head of Nomura Research Institute. Okay, so for this session, pag-uusapan po at i-guide niya tayo on how to design effective focus group discussions for TNA. So let's all welcome Sir June Roy. Go ahead, June, take it away.
Hello, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. So just to set the expectation, this is not a full training. So at the end of this session, at least you will be able to understand the basic rudiments or basic elements of what it means by designing FGDs for TNA. So pag FGD, ito po yung focus group discussions. So pag tinawag nating focus group discussion, tanong lang muna, sino ba yung mga nakapag-design na ng focus group discussion or FGD questionnaire? Whether pang TNA, pang product, pang marketing. Thumbs up naman dyan, Pag nakapag-facilitate na kayo or nakapag-moderate ng FGD as part of your TNA, right, pwede namang love.
Sige nga. Malapit ng Valentine's, pwede din daw pong heart.
Yeah, heart or love button.
Ayan, okay.
Yeah. So pag wala yung signal or wala yung symbol or icon, that means wala pa, and which is good, So ilan ba yung nag-love button dyan or nag-thumbs up?
Kanina I saw around 5 siguro.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Ayan, may mga nag-a-add pa. So there's a number of participants who...
So that's good, So kung nakapag-conduct na kayo, then that means may karagdagan lang tayong 2 minutes. 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 2 kumbaga i-contribute or mai-align kung ano yung ginawa ninyo. Right? So, unang tanong, pangalawa pala. Ano yung first step pag magdi-design ka ng FGD? Oh, pwedeng pakitype. First step. So, inutusan ka, no? Binigyan ka ng instruction. Mag-design ka ng FGD. In fact, the first step to designing any questionnaire, whether FGD yan or any other instrument or other types of survey, actually pareho lang yung first step. Ano kaya yung first step? Type nga natin. First step, by logic. Ayun. Wala na, finish na. Inunahan na
May nanalo na
ni
daw.
kasamang Louie. Yes, of course, everything starts and ends with knowing your objectives. So at least alam natin yan. Ano? And then ang pangalawa, it's ano yung mga design elements maliban. So pag nag-design ka, ano ba yung mga dinidesign mo? Paano malalaman na kompleto? Diba? Pag nag-design tayo ng training, may objectives, may methodology, may activities. Pag nag-design ka ng FGD questionnaire or FGD itself, no? Ano yung mga design elements? So wala pa po dyan yung planning and preparations except the logistics part, no? Iniwalay muna natin. So mayroon kang goal, pero ano yung goal mo? Kasi pwede mong gamitin yung FGD to fish out more information. So that means wala kang pa-survey, wala kang ibang tool na gagamitin kundi yung FGD. So that becomes your primary means of analyzing training needs. The other one, it's additional info ba yun? That means nag-conduct ka ng ibang interview or nag-conduct ka ng survey or mayroon kang competency assessment and you want additional info. Validating means, katulad ng ginagawa namin madalas when we conduct diagnosis or surveys, whether pang TNA yan or pang culture building, a lot of times we want to validate certain information as a result of the survey. So yung competency-based survey mo or yung typical TNA survey, pwede mong i-validate yan by way of conducting FGD, right? Or do you also want to evaluate the impact of a training? Teka, training evaluation yun, di ba TNA tayo? Because when you do an evaluation of a training that you conducted, it can also provide you TNA inputs. Either you need to reinforce, conduct more follow-through, or kulang yung training, there are other trainings that are needed to address a certain issue that you tried to address by the training that you conducted. So training, evaluation input outputs can also become an output. So pwedeng i-evaluate. Bakit mahalaga ito? Kasi magkukonekta yan later on, yung questions mo will be determined by your goal. Ngayon, sa FGD, mayroong tatlong role. May facilitator or moderator, may scribe or note-taker, may timekeeper. Paano kung kulang? So, pwedeng yung scribe sa timekeeper, pwedeng magsama. Right? Pero yung facilitator, normally dapat sana hiwalay yon. Paano kung iisa lang talaga? With digital means, kung ipagpaalam naman, napapayagan, recorded siya, then pwede nating recorded. In fact, ideally, dapat recorded. No? So that you don't have to worry so much on catching up with the participant's answer. So pwedeng mawala yung scribe. Yung scribe pwedeng i-designate yan later on at the end or after na, no? To interpret and analyze the results. Timekeeper, kung wala talaga, timekeeper or gatekeeper, that can be done by one person pa rin. Meaning the facilitator can do that. Technique lang, like ginagawa namin, nasa harap namin yung parang itong phone, nakalagay doon kung anong time frame, no? So pwedeng gawin yun. Mas lalo kung online, it's much easier. So participants mix ilan? Maraming kwan dyan. Pwedeng 5 to 10. 10 is the normal maximum that you can read in many books. Pero sa amin, we don't follow that. Kasi yung 10, ang hirap i-moderate. Napakahirap, no? Even yung 4 na minimum sa ibang books, we don't follow. Sa amin, ang ideal, it's 3 up to 6 because that is what is more manageable. If you can manage 10, why not, no? Then the other one, yung pagpili, yung mix, no? syempre yung relevant doon sa training. So if these are managers, sino kaya ang ifo-focus group discussion natin? So relevant can be their bosses, the participants themselves, and some of their subordinates. So in short, pwedeng magkaroon ng cross-section or dapat magkaroon ng cross-section. When you do that, it becomes part of your FGD plan. Right? But that's part of the design. Duration, 45 to 90 minutes, that's the textbook. It can be 30 kung konti lang yung ibabali. Halimbawa, you have only few employees. So syempre yung 45 to 90 minutes kung 10 lang naman yung i-interviewin mo lahat-lahat, no? And then divided by 3. So that means only 3 groups. You can probably okay with 30 minutes. But in our experience, because we're doing a lot of FGDs, given that NRI is a research-based institution also, so 45 to 60 minutes is our normal duration. But it can be extended to 90 minutes. Bakit more than 90 minutes hindi na maganda? Depending on the topic, there are certain topics that can be stressful for the participants. So 90 minutes is really the maximum as a rule of thumb. And then yung questions mo, again, the type of questions that you will do or you will craft or construct depends on your goal. So kung validating questions yan, yung questions mo manggagaling doon sa mga results ng initial survey. Magtatagpo yon, no? And then the other one, it's what are the themes, ano yung length, and of course, the manner by which you construct the questions. And logistics, that's really part of the planning. No? So, ang primary role ng design or primary focus in our discussions today, it's more on the questions. Right? More on the questions. Okay. Simple framework. There are other models that are more robust, pero ito yung pinakasimple. So pag magdi-design ka ng questions, ang una muna yung objective mo or yung goal, clarify that. Iba ang traction kasi pag validation, evaluation, or if it is your primary means of data gathering. And then from that goal, you determine ano ba yung data na kailangan mo. So you determine the data or information need from the FGD and you organize them into clusters, themes, or categories. So wag ka munang mag-deep dive ka agad ano yung mga questions, no? And then sa kami cluster, yeah, that can be done. Pwede naman yon na lahat muna ng maisip mong questions, then saka mo na lang i-cluster, but we don't recommend that. I don't recommend that. Based on practice, mas maayos muna, eto lahat ng data ang kailangan ko, clustered around certain categories, and then I can develop the questions. Questions that are clear, open-ended, valid, and reliable. Okay. Sample. Ang goal ko is to validate the results of the TNA survey. Ibig sabihin, nagpa-survey na ako, competency-based. Diba? May mga lumitaw na doon. Normally, because of certain biases, may mga lilitaw doon na, teka, bakit ang taas noong competency nila dito? Pero there were certain incidents na alam ko parang it's contrary to reality eh. Sabi noong let's say HR head kung ito ay external or with your own observation. So sometimes we need to validate. So kung validation yun, then ano ang data? So some of the data, sample lang, ano ba yung priority issue muna na dapat i-address? Ano yung manifestation of this issue? Ano yung impact ng issue? Ano yung solution? So from there, yan na yung clusters mo. Priorities, manifestations, impact, solutions. Of course, there can be other type of clusters or themes or categories depending on the purpose or goal of your TNA. So ano yung question mo? Madali na. So kung prioritization, then you must have a question that elicits the prioritization. Ano ba yung top 3 issues currently affecting your unit which you feel can be addressed by training? How is this manifested? Can you cite a situation when you encounter this issue? Impact. Can you identify one significant impact of this issue? And then solutions, you can ask what have been done so far, or can you list down the solutions that have been tried or done so far? And then what other solutions can you think of? Right? So goal, data, questions. So wag dive ka agad sa questions. The questions is determined by the goal, But for you to develop a list of questions, it's good if you cluster them all together. So wala pong nagbabawal kung ang approach mo, ilista mo lahat ng questions and then saka may cluster. If you can be more organized by doing that, by all means. No? But at the end of the day, mayroon kang tatlo. So pag inilagay mo ito sa worksheet, parang think of it as like 3 columns. No? Mayroon kang goal, mayroon kang ano yung data, and then per data cluster, ano yung mga questions. Right? So ito rin yung magiging barometer mo later on for you to say na you're able to achieve the objective of the TNA, FGD. Nakuha mo ba yung information? So, konti na lang, no? 3 slides. Will you be interested in attending a training on effective presentation? Do you think this is a good question? Whether interview or FGD, the principles that guide the construction of an FGD question is pretty much the same principles that guides questions in general that are used for survey. Whether this is an interview survey question, these are the same set of principles. So good or bad, ano sa tingin niyo? Tignan nga natin sa chat kung may sasagot.
Meron. June, no doubt. It's
Ayun.
close-ended. Hindi daw open-ended.
Hindi open-ended.
This is poor according to Joseph. Louie, naiyak pa.
Okay. Maliban sa open-ended, ano pa yung rason bakit ito ay poorly constructed? Tama, this is close-ended and it's better kung open-ended, but there's another reason.
Yan. Marie says, leading question daw ito.
Leading, yan. So alam na natin sino may mga karanasan na, no? Later on we can share together our know-how. Tama, no? Sakto 'yon. It's a leading question. Parang inalok ka ng pagkain, no? Eh gutom ka. Syempre, kung kaibigan mo naman 'yan, hindi ka tatanggi, no? So kung hindi mo naman babayaran, so it's a leading question. Okay. So pag tiningnan mo by comparison, can you list down the top 3 issues that you think can be addressed by training? So it's not really open, it's not really close-ended, still open. You can also ask, what do you think is the major issue that you think can be addressed by training? Or pwede mong gawin, hindi pa siya addressed by training, what are the top issues that are that you're encountering in your department? So hindi pa siya na condition kung training related ba yon or non-training. So there are several ways of looking into it, no? Pero ito, ang sample dito kasi it's a validating question. Okay? Mayroon ng result before. So there are a lot of techniques or strategies to conduct the question, and you design according to that. You can make them choose among options, make them a list, fill in the blank, projection, fantasy or dream, right? Ito yung if you're a genie or if 20 years from now or 5 years from today, or if you're going to write something a year from now. So these are projective exercises and these are good, may babagayan. Rating, it's also acceptable. On a scale of 1 to 5, right? Can you rate, no? Especially if this is not your primary, if this is your primary method. Even drawing a picture, right, can be done, although madalang na ginagawa, no? Role playing, if you want to test a certain skill set and establish the training right there and then. So it's still part ng focus group discussion. Commitment setting, ito yung action-oriented. Think back and reflect can be, put together. Clarificatory and elaboration. Elaboration is like, can you elaborate more? So normally in elaboration, it's a branching questions. When somebody said something and you want that to be elaborated, clarified ganun din. What do you mean when you said something like this? Can you expound more on what you said? Can you give an example of that? So those are, so ibig sabihin nito, yung nasa FGD mo, yun yung mga parent questions. Pwede kang mag-branch, but in reality, maraming questions or may mga questions that are considered branch. Lilitaw lang yon by way of your experience and you're sensing during the actual FGD. So hindi po pwedeng totally scripted na you move from one question and you miss out the opportunity to clarify, to elaborate. No? So baseline lang yung design mo, just like in any interview. Yeah. And then lastly, your question should be clear, correct, concise. Ito yung character ng lahat ng questions, right? Whether FGD or not. And then the other one, it's aligned dun sa objective mo. And sa mga graduate po ng psych or may background sa ganito, then there are basically two parameters that make your FGD sound in addition to the other four, which is reliable siya and then valid. Pag sinabi nating valid, it asks what you're asking, what you intend to ask. Right? So ganun lang, simplihan lang muna natin. Kung ano yung dapat mong itanong, yun ang itinanong mo. Right? So if you are asking for validation or let's say issues, then yung issue na tanong mo is really what you're asking. Reliable, kung nag-conduct ka ng 10 batches, the way they understood the question is the same. So mapapansin mo yan kung tinest mo, kung magkakaiba yung sagot nila, then there has to be some way to improve the reliability. Kaya ang ginagawa din dyan, tinitest din sa iba't iba to make it sure that when you administer the FGD and ask these questions, and normally by batch yan, they have simple understanding. Yung actual na reliability factor, mayroon pong calculation yan over time, mayroong mathematical formulation. Do you have to do that sa FGD? If you are developing an instrument, especially on a psychometrics point of view, you need to do that, especially if it is for sale or if you are being paid to do that, no? If you are into some kind of research like us. Pero kung you're doing this for TNA, hindi mo na kailangan mag-coefficient or mag-mathematical formulation just to establish reliability. Right? Pwede mong simplihan yung definition lang. Pag tinanong mo yung iba't ibang sample, yung pagkakaintindi ba nila iisa. So that reliable yung results mo across batches. And pag kinundak mo ito 2 years from today or a year or 6 months, pareho lang yung pagkakaintindi nila. So if you want to know more, there are books, there are resources, but the one that I like better, it's yung kay Richard Kruger. Mas simple. No? Yung kanyang practical guide for applied research. And TNA is a form of applied research. So yun lang, it's a basic introduction on the design. It's like a mini crash course, being a crash course, mini crash course. But the bottom line, if we go back, it's really about this. Itong dalawa, no? Right? Yung goal, roles, participants, mix, durations, and then questions. And when you develop the questions, be mindful that your question should be anchored in your goal, and then make it sure that you're very clear on what data you need to flesh out or to gather out of that FGD, and make it sure that it's properly clustered so that it's well organized. Then when you do it, it is much easier to conduct. The challenges of conducting TNA or FGD is a topic that is different. No, we will not cover that today unless may mga questions about it later on. Pwede naman nating sagutin. Paano kung yung mga participants mo iba yung issue, no? Mayroon silang agenda. Yung tanong mo mayroong hugot yung sagot, no? How do you deal with that? So that's different. Here, ang focus lang natin, it's more on how do you design the FGD, especially on the questions that you will ask. Yung FGD planning, hindi pa rin po covered ang ating discussion today, pero iba rin po yun, no? How do you now prepare? So yung logistics, timing, ilang batches, so that's a different planning altogether. So we just focus on how do you design the main ingredient of your FGD, which is the questions. Right? So back to you,
Yes, thank
Marvy,
you.
and let's engage in a more active discussions with our participants.
Yes. I think like personally ako ang dami ko na kaagad notes. Very it's short, but it's hitik na information that I think as a trainer I could definitely take away with me as a guide. So syempre, ito na yung time for us to engage in a conversation sa ating mga katropa. Actually sa chat, June, ang daming mga
Ang dami nga.
#relate na relate sa sa mga discussion points mo earlier, no? So it's more of they're confirming what you are saying and also suggesting some items. So I suggest yung ating mga katropa na nandito sa Zoom or andyan sa Facebook, please send in your questions para June could also answer your questions. Pero meron akong mga ilang nilista, no? Magtatanong muna ako while we're waiting for our participants to ask their questions. Kasi kanina before we started, we were talking na iba't iba yung practices, no? Some trainers would do an FGD as part of their TNA, some wouldn't. So ang nako-curious ako ngayon, ano bang mga training interventions would warrant an FGD as part of the TNA process? And anong interventions yung pwede na nating i-skip to? Ano kaya? Ano yung just a guidance for us trainers? Ano po kaya?
Okay. I-rephrase ko yung kasi yung question, Marby, because you can use FGD without yet establishing kung may training ba na kailangan or hindi. That means when we talk about TNA, di ba? Katulad ng sinabi ni kasamang Gemma, partner Gemma before, you are not yet, kumbaga, you are disabusing your mind na kailangan nila training. But one way of understanding kung ano yung issues maliban doon sa pagkakaroon ng survey is through FGD para malaman mo ano yung mga issues or gaps within the department that might potentially need a training or other non-training intervention. So kung yun ang purpose, then it's not a question kung may anong klaseng training or not, no? Ngayon, kung halimbawang ang tanong is yung sinabi mo mismo, like technical training, pwede siguro, pero yung technical training kasi mas observable, mas more reliable yung mga data. Let's say for example, kailangan ba niya ng training on how to operate the machine better sa mga production? Maybe I wouldn't do FGD for that, right? I would just rely on the data and direct observation. Pero kung there's a lot of ambiguity like leadership, diba? Training related to culture, behavioral. Yan. Wala kang hard data at times. So FGD is a practical way of doing that.
Okay. I think magandang lang yun. Parang not really automatic, but as a guidance, diba? If you're deciding kung ano yung mga steps that you're going to take, I think technical, baka not necessary, but if it's more of concepts, no? Yan. Pwedeng additional source of information mo talaga yung FGD. Sir Ed, you want
may follow-up question ako dun sa tanong mo, Marby, kay June. Kasi nabanggit mo, June, nga na pagka mga technical training, baka hindi na kailangan ng FGD. And I've been wondering about that. Kasi if you're using FGD to validate, for example, that means you didn't get enough information during the TNA survey. Hindi ba makakatulong yung FGD, whether that's technical or non-technical training, to find out for design for like if you're doing TNA for designing the program, wouldn't the FGD help in that way? Kasi minsan limitado yung tanong na itatanong mo during the TNA survey para malaman kung ano talaga yung mga areas ng technical work ang nahihirapan yung mga participants, so that you can consider that in design.
Yeah, it will, no doubt. But as I mentioned, if you have hard data, right, and yung sinasabi ni Pearl, let's say for example, you want to find causes. So it's not exactly FGD yung doon, no? Yung method. There are other methods to find out causes for errors in the context of problem solving, no? So hindi siya interview questions, but it's really brainstorming, right? QE storming or other
So pwedeng error data ang
pwedeng
panggagalingan mo
error
rather.
data. So kung wala ka ng mga ganun, right? Then pwedeng FGD, and sometimes during the discussions of let's say open-ended muna yung purpose, no? Ibig sabihin hindi mo pa na-establish kung may training na kailangan o hindi, right? You're establishing ano yung mga issues. Pwedeng lumitaw may mga problems sila on technical training na kulang pala, right? Then you can elaborate more. Then lumilitaw. So it can, but there are other methods that are more reliable, especially kung may data. And if it is problem solving, FGD can help, yet other methods of discussing the problem, finding the root causes can be more appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Actually, may mga comments din dito sila Pearl, and additional din sila Louie. According to Pearl yan, for technical training minsan gagamitin nga siya to find causes and errors. And Louie naman said then it should be subject matter agnostic. FGD should be based on 2 questions. Do I need more qualitative? Or is it best to get this from a group discussion than one-on-one interview? Yeah. Okay, and additional question siguro, no? Interesting din tong question. Although you mentioned kanina na yung mismong pag-conduct, ibang usapan. Pero baka taking it from your experience, June, ano-ano yung mga personalities? This is coming from Miggy. What are the different personalities na when you normally conduct FGDs based on your experience? And how do you adeptly and expertly maneuver them? Iba't ibang character yan, di ba? Pag nasa FGD, may mga mamaru. Oh, ito ba? Maraming character. So how do you navigate that if you're the one?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I remember a time when in 1990s, 96 ba? 96, when I first did my FGD. Talagang yung dominant person, no, na hindi mindful doon sa whether he is hugging the limelight and all the time. Mayroon kang may encounter na ganun, right? The other naman tahimik. Yung opposite.
Wala kang
right?
ma-extract.
Mayroon din naman, so whether it's because of personality or some other agenda or reasons, pero ito yung mga behaviors na madalas nagiging challenging. Isa naman, sablay talaga. Either malabo yung tanong, hindi ganun ka-reliable, or he's not paying attention during that time. So sablay yung sagot, no? So iba't iba yung personalities or behaviors na may encounter mo. And as a facilitator, that's, kung titignan mo yan, it's almost the same like the skill set that you use when you facilitate a training, nagtanong ka, di ba? Pwede ring may maging dominant. So yung technique na ginagawa mo doon is in the same principle, yun din ang ginagamit mo redirecting, right? So a polite way of, right? Thank you, Marby, for your insights. I'd like to hear the others as well. So yung I'd like to hear the others as well, kanyon, parang cue na pagbigyan mo naman yung iba. Di ba? Pagbigyan mo naman yung iba. Sila naman. Okay? Kung naman talaga, kung quiet or silent, proactively, you set the expectations at the very start. So part ng script yon. Okay? Hindi pwedeng invited sila and then wala man lang, may isang member na hindi man lang nagsalita. No? So kailangan malinaw yung expectation. Just like what we also do in training, malinaw yung expectation. And then kung talagang kahit na, no, tapos may dominant, no, or hindi niya feel magsalita that time, so talagang tatawagin mo. Tatawagin mo talaga. Marvin, what about you? Or rounds. In this question, I'd like everyone to answer. Kasi hindi naman lahat ng tanong kailangan sumagot lahat if you are doing an FGD. Okay.
Baka I guess you will notice also on their behavior, right? Minsan may kita yung gumaganyan, yung nagmo-move
non-verbals.
Oo, mga yes, 'di ba? Alam mong may gustong mag-share, so you have to be also observant on
Uh,
your
Kaya
participants.
importante you facilitate. You don't get into arguments, or you don't you're also mindful of your own biases. Otherwise, you get sucked into that argument. Wala na. Tapos na yung FGD mo.
Yes, actually relate dito si Hezekiah. Sabi niya, meron siyang mga na-attendan na FGDs, yung parang walang direction. So I think this is a good framework to follow now, 'di ba? Yung walang direction, yung nagtatanong lang, tapos ang ending parang naging open forum yung discussion.
Naging open forum.
Walang direction
Oo.
yung FGD. So I
Kasi
think
may share ko lang para magkaroon ng direction, like our discipline for example, because as a global company with research in our name, so ang taas ng expectation, di ba? So pag nag-FGD kami or any interview that we do, talagang may design yan, may plano, may nag-QA, right? And then nagkakaroon din ng with the client, nagkakaroon ng expectation setting kung ito ay okay sa kanila or not, no? Similarly, kahit na hindi external consultant ang gagawa, so it has to be properly designed, malinaw yung purpose mo, nakasulat talaga yung itatanong mo, right? Mayroon kang script or flow na sinusundan. Especially kung hindi ka pa expert, and even if you're an expert, kung wala kang script kasi, when I say script, yung listahan talaga ng itatanong mo, magiging memory based yun, and it's not going to work.
Right. So it really requires a lot of planning as well.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Now siguro let's hear also from other katropas here.
Yeah, sige nga.
Maybe, of course, sa dami rin ng mga programs na
Experience nila.
nakausap, sa ating mga katropa, Louie, Pearl, Sir Ed. Thoughts, your thoughts and your best practices, I guess, also when conducting FGDs. Maybe
Or tips.
begin, or tips, yes, correct. Start with you, Louie.
As I mentioned in the chat room, ako ay assign a sequence of sharing. Parang yung brainstorming technique, di ba? Para talagang we are able to encourage or force everybody to have equal airtime. So sabi ko, counterclockwise or clockwise yan, no? Pag wala kang masabi at that point, say pass so we can move on to the next person. So talagang pag merong sumagot ng wala sa order niya, no? I can easily redirect. Yeah.
Right.
Naka-establish siya in the beginning, no?
Yes, may FGD rules tayo na binibigay dyan.
Sundan ko yung kay Louie. Create a simple matrix na nandoon yung pangalan ng participants, right? At kung dalawa kayo, may taga-kwan yun, or nakikita mo rin, kung walang entry yon, ibig sabihin butas na butas, kulang. So alam mo kung sino yung ipaprioritize mo. Kaya maganda yung sinabi ni Louie. Part ng kwan yun, ng overall planning and design.
Dagdag ko, total planning at design, di ba? 60, 75, or 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Tapos, ang participants mo, 6. 3 ang tanong mo. So, if you do the math, yes, you can actually determine the average airtime each person has per question. So, may mention ka na yun sa house, sa FGD rules, no? That please keep your sharing to, let's say 2 to 3 minutes, no, per person, so we can hear from everyone, no? Mababalansin mo naman yung pag merong nag-overshare, may hindi, then you can give the others additional airtime.
Correct. And that's why if you really don't have the facilitation skills, then mahihirapan ka to handle, that whole thing. And of course, kagaya nga nun, yung pag-set pa lang ng mga rules in the beginning is really important. Sir Ed, thank you for that, Louie. Sir Ed, your thoughts?
Actually, this is a big learning experience for me, June. Kasi sabi ko nga kanina nung prior to the program that I've never conducted an FGD for training needs analysis. Normally climate, yung validation ng climate survey, employee engagement, where you deal with yung general sentiments, kasi kaya I'm very interested kasi one of the biggest challenges, especially in big companies na nagti-TNA, is that if you're just using sampling, you're approximating what kind of training is needed by the company. And then sometimes what happens is, based on that TNA, maglalabas ka ng program. Tapos come enrollment, wala nag-i-enroll kasi hindi nila nire-recognize na need nila yon. Di ba? So yun yung challenge eh. Meron kang training calendar, hindi napupuno yung attendees mo kasi hindi naman pinpoint kung sino talaga yung may kailangan ng training. Because you did sampling. And then kaya sa akin yung FGD, I'm wondering how an FGD can help. Yung mga employees recognize that this is really the training that they need if the result is training, no? A training need, di ba? So yun yung ano ko. So iniisip ko yun, how do we do the FGD? Kasi nakikita ko siya as a very useful tool for fleshing out the training needs so that we end up with learning objectives. Ganun ba ang output nung when you design a training, an FGD on TNA ay ma-flesh out yung dapat maging learning objectives nung training?
That can be part of the goal,
Mhm.
right? It can also be a goal is identification of the priority issues. Pwedeng yun, no? Or combined together. Yeah, so if that is part of your goal, I've conducted TNA or FGDs na ganun yung purpose.
Mhm.
Yeah, so definitely yes, it can be. But not the only one.
Can be. It
Ah,
not
oo.
necessarily.
Kasi sa climate survey, pwedeng magkaroon ng ang outcome or output ng FGD is a recognition of the competency gaps of certain
Mhm.
people, no? For example, baka kulang yung may mali sa system o may mali sa management. Pero pagdating dun sa FGD for TNA, my mind is still trying to process how that's going to be done so that we come up with not just a training, yung not just the right training title, but the right kind of training with the right set of learning objectives.
Right, right. Kaya Marby, importante dito yung triangulation kasi 'di ba pag FGD limited din yung source mo doon 'di ba? Limited. And focus group siya. So hindi siya open forum katulad ng sabi ni
Yeah,
Zoe.
wanted to
Oo,
highlight
diba?
that as well eh. Focus, not hindi open.
Kaya nga eh. That's why I'm really very interested in and I'm heavily invested in knowing more about this,
Yes.
how to do this properly. Kasi what I'm learning from you, June, is that if you don't do this properly, you're wasting your time.
It's a waste of
Yeah, absolutely.
your time and
And
imagine mo
resources.
if you are let's say having an external business, external consultant, it can ruin your reputation. Kasi madami yung madi-displace ginambala sila tapos hindi rin pala na-conduct ng magsusumbong ang mga yun. Sigurado.
Oo, yung mga
At
negative.
saka I think kung magaling ka mag-facilitate, mamamask yung yung ineffectiveness ng FGD eh. Ang problema doon yung quality ng output
quality.
How do you use the data that you're getting?
Malalaman mo
Is
na yung
it
paggagawa ka na ng report.
Walang value add yung data from there in your report.
Oo. Yung pag pinesend mo na yung report mo, totoo ba yan? Parang hindi naman yan yung nakikita namin.
Oo. Yes, yan. Interesting. But Pearl, baka ikaw rin you want to share your thoughts on your practice, some challenges, and how do you deal with that? Thank you, Sir Ed.
Kasi yung sinabi ko kanina na that we conduct FGDs to deep dive dun sa errors. Kasi meron na kaming error data. Pero hindi namin alam kung yung error data ba stems from another error. Parang minsan kailangan namin ng root cause analysis. And what we do is really conduct an FGD dun sa mga operators na ito yung usually yung mga palagi nagko-commit ng errors, tapos makikita namin saan yung area ng errors, and then we call together yung mga taong medyo mataas ang percentage ng errors, and then we deep dive. Parang saan ba nanggagaling? So, that's when we use, kasi sa amin, mas maraming malaking percentage ng employees namin are operators. Tawag namin operators, but basically they're designers, mga ganyan. So, kailangan na makita saan yung errors. Is it nasa client ba yung error? Nasa operator ba? Nasa system ba? So, dito namin malalaman. Pagka after the deep dive, kailangan pala ng training dito sa kunyari root cause analysis or may training pala on another quality issue, parang gano'n. So also, I think it's important to emphasize also that at the beginning of an FGD, it's important, ito na natutunan ko to over the years, na it's important to emphasize the rules of the data. Where is it going to be shared? When is it who will have access to the data? And ano yung confidentiality rules natin? Kasi madalas doon sila natatakot eh. Baka mamaya magsalita ako dito tapos sasabihin sa supervisor ko, ito ang sinabi ko. Di ba?
Yeah.
So, it's...
Sabi ni Pearl yan.
Oh, correct.
Oh, no choice.
Oo, di ba? Kaya ine-emphasize namin na we will share this, pero aggregate yung data. Hindi tinutukoy kung sino ang nagsabi. So,
Right.
yung important yan para for the participants to gain that confidence to speak.
Tama. Tama. Agreed. And Marby, gawin na natin
Yes.
SOP. Lahat ng
Oo
survey,
nga eh. I
interview,
think
di ba?
so.
Interview, FGD, yung sinabi ni Marby, ay ni Pearl, na kailangan yung data. That's part of the expectation setting.
Exactly.
In fact, bago mo imbitahin, kwan na yun.
Meron
Part na ng kwan mo,
na-establish na.
na-establish ng communications mo.
Correct, correct. Oo, kasi for example, in our role, for example, in my work as consultant, ang hirap minsan, diba? If you don't have data to look at. So,
Pero
yeah.
pag ginamit mo yung FGD for problem analysis, medyo mag-iiba na ng konti. It would deepen and there would be a bit of complications because gagamit ka na ng problem-solving tools. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang ito ordinary magtatanong ka. Right? So kailangan may framework yung analysis mo so that yung questions mo, yung sagot doon would provide you a hypothesis. So magko-combine na dito yung problem solving, logical thinking, and you are doing that through the FGD process. So I would agree with kasamang Pearl in that context, but hahaluan natin ng methodology on problem solving. Kasi pag wala yung problem solving methodology mo, yung framing mo is series of questions lang. Pag ni-report mo yon, mahirapan ka rin sa pag-analyze at pag-interpret ng data. Kasi hypothesis building na yun eh. Right? So as simple, let's say as simple as why, di ba? Or yung mga ganon, as simple as that method can help you out.
Yes. Ang dami. Actually, parang kulang. Kulang yung time natin today. Mukhang kailangan ng part 2 for
6:57 na.
I know, right? Oh my God. Akala ko 6 pa lang. But anyway, of course, there's so many things to unpack when it comes to the concept of training needs analysis. And of course, we really appreciate yung ating mga participants, ating mga katropa for, sharing their thoughts. And of course, June for sharing these guidelines. But of course, if you want to really be equipped with the skills to conduct a TNA, i-promote na rin natin ang ang training needs analysis course ng PSTD. Syempre doon, mas comprehensive yung learning doon. There are so many questions pa here, no? Pero yun nga siguro we'll take note, June, and then if we have time, we could just, give them answers kahit offline. So, yan,
Madami pang dapat pag-usapan. Even yung reliability and validity.
Yes.
Mahaba-habang usapan din yun.
Correct.
All right.
Yes. So I guess just to wrap up yung ating session today is number 1, I think maganda na establish ni June na it all begins with your objectives, right? It's not about going to your questions right away and facilitating that session. But ultimately, what's gonna guide you in the design process is you identifying what do you want to get out of this exercise that you're gonna do. Okay? Para maging value adding yung data that you're gonna gather. Okay? And aside from June also emphasized yung skill ng magkakonduct ng TNA when it comes to problem solving and at the same time facilitation skills. Otherwise, even though you have a really good design ng iyong FGD, if you're not going to be able to execute that effectively, baka maging ineffective din ang results ng iyong FGD. So yeah, I think it really captures a good fundamental elements for us trainers sa pagkakandak ng FGD. So maraming salamat, June, for sharing your knowledge and experience. And of course, sa ating mga katropa who joined us today, siguro before we let everyone go, can we take a photo with everyone? Ayan, Norman, on your cue.
Pictures.
And kindly open the camera, everyone.
All right. Of course, nakamag si June. On your cue, Norm.
Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much, everyone.
All
Okay.
right. Next week, I hope we will see you again next week. I-promote ko na rin kasi ang speaker next week ako po. Umiikot lang po, no? Design thinking, how you can use design thinking in design learning program. So magi-geek out tayo on design thinking next week. So hope you can join us also next week. Sir Ed, and to our other katropas, baka may message po kayo before we let them go.
Ayun, maraming salamat po. Just we look forward to seeing you at magyaya po kayo ng mga kasama para mas lalo maging rich ang ating usapan.
Correct.
Okay, have a great week.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Happy
Night.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Happy weekend.